I've emailed Gary Vee, Mark Cuban, all these people. They've all replied to me. It's literally that easy.
Cold email.
When I first started, I spent hours just sitting in my high school classes, just emailing people. Whenever you have time off, just email people. Simple emails like, "Hey, I'm a 3PL founder. Any advice? Like, what do you think I could do?"
Welcome back to Unboxing Logistics. Family, I've missed you. It's been a minute. I am so excited though today. We have an incredible guest. Krushna Patel is here with us, and he is the guru, go-to guy when it comes to everything 3PL, but also just in general, he has a really cool story, y'all. He's just done some really great things in terms of his career here in logistics and fulfillment. Really excited for you to learn from him today. So, you know the drill. I'm Lori Boyer, your host, and we are going to have a fun next 30 minutes to an hour talking with Krushna and learning all about 3PLs and just getting you excited about the world of fulfillment. Krushna, welcome. Can you quickly, for our Unboxing Logistics family, introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background? You don't have to go too far into it since we're going to dive into that more deeply.
Absolutely. Yeah. My name's Krushna. I'm the CEO of Awesome Solutions. And now I have to live up to your fabulous intro. So I appreciate that. I've been in e-commerce and fulfillment for like a decade plus. I started selling online when I was 13. So all my experience and everything I shed is stuff that I've actually done.
Krushna, you seem to have had kind of this entrepreneur mindset since you were young, and you live it every day. So we're going to talk about that, kind of what you've learned from the front lines. But first, before we even get started, one of the things that I love to do is I love to hear who's somebody who's been your mentor or somebody that you've really admired in the industry, somebody that you've worked with or even just read about, and why did you like them?
It's not industry specific, but Alex Ramosi has been in a big part of me building up this company. I think a huge part of that is because I'm not a fan of like the guru type of mindset business stuff, but I really like tactical knowledge. So like specific sales scripts, like how to close better, how to send better emails, like how to do the actual work. I'm a big fan of that. Like I believe that if you're not given that, if you're not dealt the best cards, then hard work can give you a little bit of that edge. So I like people like that. And Alex Ramosi does that very well.
That's fantastic. You and we're totally the same in that regard. I'm all about kind of the operator mindset. Like there's the consultant mindset. Oh, what's our overarching vision? But then it's like, okay, how do we get crap done? And so I love that. I think you and we're friends in that way. Okay, back us up. How did you end up in logistics and fulfillment in the first place? Give us a little background.
Absolutely. So I started selling online when I was 13. I was just doing it as a way to help my parents pay rent, pay the bills, that type of thing. In our generation of just being able to sell things online, it's very cool that you could just, arbitrage that type of thing. So did that for a little bit.
What did you sell, Krushna?
It was cosmetic products. So the things that were given, it's stuff that's given out in like essentially like defect lines. So you could sell them as liquidation. And they cost pennies and you could sell them for quite a bit more on eBay and things like that. So I did that for some time. Then I tried to scale that. It's pretty hard to scale. So I turned that into an Amazon FBA store when I was old enough to. Scaled that up to a few million and then learned some hard lessons along the way because that business is a very thin margin business. Took some big losses, exited it, and then I started doing fulfillment straight from both. So e-commerce and fulfillment is all I know. Found that there was a big gap in the fulfillment and warehousing, a lot of lack of transparency, for better words. So that motivated me to start in the fulfillment space.
That's so cool. Were your parents in the industries of fulfillment and logistics or selling online, or like what in the world was in this 13-year-old boy's mind of like, I should do this, I could sell some stuff? Like, how'd you even get that idea?
I mean, I think it comes natural born in the people that hustle. So we're sitting there, we're like, what could we do? My mom worked at a makeup company in the packaging department. So they would give out a box of the defective stuff at the end of the day of every shift. So she would come home with a few items. I was like, there has to be money in this. So sell them for a few dollars each. Can't really scale that, right? Because how many more defect products can you get? So then I realized that there's a cap to it, but being able to get a job at 13 is pretty hard, right? So being able to sell online is doesn't matter how old you are. It's very open to people. You don't need much capital. You could sell things that you could buy at anywhere. So that seemed like a very good opportunity at that time.
That's incredible. It's awesome mindset. Okay, so what led you to Awesome Solutions? First, tell everyone what Awesome Solutions is, and how you've ended up in that space right now.
Of course, when I started doing FBA, when you work with these wholesalers and these large companies that need to give you product, you need to send them to a warehouse. I did it in residential, like out of my garage as long as I can, but as long as I could. But once it started to scale, it had to go to a physical warehouse. So I signed a commercial lease. I was 18 or 19 at that time. Started doing the FBA from there. And the warehouse was essentially empty all the time because the way FBA works, you get inventory, you send it out right away, right? So you're not storing it. And then I realized that there was such a big gap when I spoke to other FBA sellers in how fast their inventory turned around. So if you start with very little money, the name of the game is to spin the cash flow as fast as possible. So they would get inventory, send it back as fast as you can, so it would sell faster. So some of these FBA prep centers would keep the inventory for like 7 days, 14 days. It was a big loss for the sellers. So I realized that there was such a big gap. So I started fulfilling myself and realized how much of a value add it is when you could do it quick and accurate. So started that and exited selling myself on Amazon and started doing it for clients.
Oh, I love it. And I love how you said you saw a gap, because I hear that so often from entrepreneurs is I saw a gap and so I did X. I think a lot of us see gaps every day in our jobs, in our lives, but we don't take that next step. Right? What tips, I guess, do you have? How do you motivate yourself to take the next step? How did you mentioned sometimes you're born with that hustle. What if you were not born with the hustle, but we want to get the hustle? I mean, what is your advice for us, Krishna?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd say there's ways to calculate it and formulate it to make it less less risky. So getting that initial warehouse at the beginning was high risk, right? Because I didn't have much industry experience. But once you realize that there is a gap, you could start it in the smallest way possible. Sign on a client that would be very little risk. If it was to fail, you could say, "Hey, I apologize. Here's your money back." Make them whole again, and you're able to, it wasn't much of a risk at all. You don't need to sign a 30,000 square foot facility for that. You could sign like a 3,000 square foot facility. You could sublease somebody else's facility. Like, this is fulfillment specific. I've tried a ton of things before I got into this, but there's ways to do everything at a smaller scale and test it out, get proof of concept. I think people spend too much time trying to get their version one to become like the best final product ever. It's not going to be that way. The second you start getting feedback, like when we started fulfillment, that we learned very early on that some of this stuff needs to be automated because clients, for example, in the FBA space, clients take time to send labels back and forth, right? You can't wait for that. It kind of defeats the purpose. So we had to automate that. And now that we've done that, clients don't have to be involved in every step of the process. They love it. It's very easy. But that wasn't our version one, right? If you scroll back to any person that's famous on TikTok or any influencer, right? Go to their first video, you'll see that that's not the video they post now.
Okay, really fantastic advice. I hope everybody who's listening right now picked up that gem in there. What I heard you say was we spend too much time on version one, trying to make it perfect. So you're saying you see a gap, you can find a way to move into it without a giant risk. Do it. Just start and then test and refine. Is that accurate?
Very accurate. Yep.
What are some lessons you've learned along the way? Let's talk about hard lessons. What can we glean from the mistakes that Krishna's made that we maybe don't have to make them?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I have a long notebook full of them. But so to start, like, this is from my founders and entrepreneurs that start from nothing. There's something in our mindset that makes you want to rush the process. And I think one of the big things I learned is it has to take time to mature and fully develop before it could be, something that you're super proud of, something that like a lot of this stuff looks like I could go from, 0 to 5 million in 1 year, for example. But the point of it is to really learn and build up your skill set, your callus during that time period to be somebody that can handle all those processes, handle those clients, handle that volume. And you don't want it to happen overnight. right? Like if you were to achieve everything you thought of tomorrow, your life wouldn't change that much. Whatever you drive, whatever you like, whatever you want to accomplish, it's better to be in that journey and that destination for some time and really take your time to do it. Because the best decisions I've ever made was when I thought long term and not like within 6 months I need this amount of money or I need this amount of growth.
It's a really interesting contrast because tip number one is don't wait to start. But then tip number two is don't rush. So it's kind of like you've got to get going. So don't wait before you start. But also, I am so guilty of it. Like I wrote it down. You don't want it to happen overnight. And yet I think a lot of us do want it to happen overnight. So really interesting. Is there a way that you pace yourself or that you do set goals, but are able to keep the long term in mind?
Absolutely. Like Alex Hormozy says it all the time, and I take a lot of his stuff and I make my own rule with it. And he said the longer somebody's time horizon is how much he could tell how valuable they are to the game, how much they'll make out of this game of entrepreneurship. I think one of the biggest things that's helped me is when I make a decision, like I'm not setting a 1 month target, right? I'm setting like a 5 year horizon of what I want the company to look like. And then I'll shrink it down into a 3 year, into a 1 year. And then that'll give me what it'll look like for the monthly. The goal isn't to make X amount in next month, right? So I would say ask yourself why you want to make that amount of money in that short amount of time, right? I'm just setting a monetary value, but it could be with any goal. So you would have to ask yourself why that is, and then you'd be able to make a rule for yourself of how much are you thinking in the long term horizon versus what are you thinking about right now. And I think that's all my decisions where I thought like, hey, if I got this in 1 year instead of 1 month, would I still want it? Like those have always been if you're looking for getting money quick type of situations, like look back at all the times you've done that, chances are you lost money.
It was kind of start with the end in mind. So you picture where you want to be. And I love this because this applies to everyone, not just founders, entrepreneurs, but in your position, in your family life, in your, physical goals. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Okay, so imagine that and then work backwards, setting goals all the way up to the current. That's fantastic advice. I really, really love that. Anything else that you would say? Is there anything that you wish you'd learned earlier beyond that?
You got to focus on what you want instead of all these side things like the shiny object syndrome.
Okay, what do you mean by shiny object syndrome?
So I've been taught in business in general, like I've just picked up these cues where all revenue is good revenue, right? So in the 3PL space, if I could own the truck route, I'll make X amount of money. If I could do my own staffing, I'll make X amount, right? These are just examples, but you don't want to be the master of everything, right? Because then you're really the master of nothing. So my goal is to provide the absolute best D2C and FBA fulfillment, right? Our goal is not to own the truck routes. It's not to do all these extra things. So shiny object syndrome could be in any vertical, but even in the bigger you grow in business, the more things will pop up and opportunities that are sickening to turn down, to be honest with you.
How do you assess them, Krishna? How do you decide if it's a shiny object you should go for, or it's one that like we're putting that on the shelf?
I mean, you have to ask yourself, would saying yes to that opportunity reduce your chances of what you're looking to get out of your current opportunity?
So that original 5 year goal, even you're like, is this even playing into that?
Yeah, like if I started a trucking company or another company, would that affect what I do in the 3PL space? Absolutely. Like I would have less time and resources to put into it. So that would therefore make it affect my current goal. And that's not what I want.
That's great. So if somebody's trying to get started in it, like, how do you develop relationships or mentorships? Or I know that's a big piece of any entrepreneur founder's journey. Have you found any tips for getting kind of advice from people who've been there?
Email people. It's literally that easy.
Cold email.
A lot. I spend like when I first started, I spent hours just sitting in my high school classes, just emailing people. Whenever you have time off, just email people and ask them like, don't say, can I pick your brain? Nobody will ever want to say yes to that. But simple things like I've emailed Gary Vee, Mark Cuban, all these people. They've all replied to me, and simple emails like, "Hey, I'm a 3PL founder. Any advice? Like, what do you think I could do?" And I've gotten a response from people that you wouldn't believe. Even deals with companies that are way above our standard of what we could purchase at the time when we were selling on Amazon. Like those are some of the largest manufacturers and distribution companies in the US. And I've worked with at least half of them. So it's just a cold email. Hey, can I work with you? This is what we do. I'm hungry. I'm here. I'm trying to build this partnership here for the long term, and people want to invest in that. So they're interested in starting young.
That's such good advice. I've found that myself as well, that it's surprising how often people do respond. You'll get 95% who don't respond, but you get that one or two who reach back out, and it can be massive.
Some of my biggest deals have been from a cold email,
Wow.
and
Yeah,
it and
that's
it
incredible.
it's not always an ask either. It's like, "Hey, Merry Christmas," and then it's like, who is this guy, right? Who's bothering me? This stuff like that gets into that type of conversation, right? Like it it really can flourish. It's the same thing with in-person networking, but email is like vastly accessible to anybody. You could search anybody's email, shoot them an email, ask, like some of the best people that have interned for us have been people that just send me a cold email. Like, hey, can
Yeah.
I intern? They don't go through my team. They just send me an email and they're just like, hey, if it's something, I'm like, all right, cool. This guy's hungry.
Yeah.
Let's,
They've got that
right.
that something. When I hire
Well,
people for my team, I'm always as well. I feel like we can teach so many skills. You can teach a lot about business, you can teach a lot about fulfillment. You can't always teach that drive, that hunger, that you know, attitude of moving forward.
that's right. And even like back to what I was saying before about being patient, about the actual journey, that's not to be confused with being able to make decisions, right? Making decisions fast is very important. As an entrepreneur, emailing people, like getting work done is obviously it's one of the most important things. But being patient in the long term, the goal that you set, right? Just realizing that every day you compound and become a little bit better. So send that email, make that phone call, do what you think might not work, and let the universe take control of a little bit of that. So
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so true. Make decisions fast. Time kills all deals, we hear. So, absolutely make the decisions fast, but keep the patience in the long term process, that we don't freak out, don't get distracted by shiny objects. Anything else that you would give as advice? We're going to move over to our 3PL section talking about, I have some questions about running a 3PL, but any other final advice for people who are entrepreneurs, founders, just wanting to get to where you are?
yeah, aim to be a little bit better every day. Send that email, make that phone call, right? Do your thing, be yourself. I hear a lot of advice about people doing like 100 different things at once. Find your few things and absolutely kill it. Like if you want to post on LinkedIn as your marketing channel, crush that. Like the DTC brands we talk to and the ones that do really well, they mastered Shopify, for example, so well. And then they go to another sales channel because people are asking them to, hey, when are you going to be on Amazon? Hey, when are you going to be on TikTok? Right? They didn't sign on to every single one of those from the beginning. It was let the demand come to you. Once you start getting good at one channel, people will come to you. So focus on that.
That's so good. It's like, take what you're already doing and do it better instead of just doing more. Sometimes we're like more, 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 more. But instead, if you take the things you're already doing and just improve it a little bit each day, killer advice. Okay, so we do have a lot of founders listening, but we also have a lot of 3PL leaders, fulfillment operators, logistics. We got we run the gauntlet here at Unboxing Logistics. So I thought that we could ask a little segment, ask the owner, put you in the hot seat, and see specifically kind of advice that you have. So if you were going to start a new 3PL specifically tomorrow, ground up, what is something that you might do differently from day one?
That's a really good question. So I would say that I would focus I would focus very much on the communication aspect of the 3PL world. So this is something that I've done and it's played a large role of our success, but I would do it even more emphasized than how I did it because there are a lot of 3PLs in the game, but the ones that are clearly communicating, the ones that are there to show that, hey, we're reliable, we're with you when you scale, that makes a huge difference because nobody wants to have an issue and then talk to an AI agent, right?
So that's what I was going to ask you. Where's the balance between kind of the AI communication, which is massive in customer support right now, and for good reasons, right? It can answer a lot of basic questions, and then the human element. Like, how are you balancing that? What is your advice specific to 3PL?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that it has to be based on the tier of what support is required. So there's certain things that are like, hey, where's my order? An AI agent could do that. It doesn't matter who responds to it essentially, as long as they do it in a timely manner. But things that get a little deeper, like if it's something invoice related, if it's something that's order specific, like duties, things like that, that are harder to systemize with an AI agent. Of course, there's some great ones out there, but a lot of times they want to ask follow-up questions to an actual human. So in my personal opinion, like when I call a larger company or chat with them, I love to speak to an agent so then I could kind of put some feeling into it, things like that. So those types of things I would say is it's it's good for an AI agent to an aspect, but there should be enough company resource that somebody can get to with claims that require it.
No, I love that. Do you have an SLA or something on how quickly you recommend people try to be getting back? Is it based on the level of customer? How big of a customer they are? Do you have any tips in general with that?
Yeah, we don't do it based on the size of the customer. Everybody we sign on would be treated to that same standard of communication. It's usually under 20 minutes for any standard business operational SLA is it's just set at 20 minutes. That's usually set for every day, Monday to Sunday. If it's something that requires like a technical problem, things like that, those could take up to 3 hours, 4 hours, but it is much faster than the standard just because if it was me on the other end, I would want that same level of communication and respect. So we do that for our clients.
Yeah, I think of it often from my own perspective. We're all consumers ourselves. So I do know as well when I'm like speaking with an AI agent or something, I don't mind doing it, but I want to know that I could access a human if I want to. I hate those looped systems where I feel like I don't know how to reach someone. And yeah, so we still got to have that available. Okay, what about any other technology specific? We get a lot of questions about that. What technology capabilities would you feel like must have from day one or even from day 272? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I would say all the basic stuff. I think people overcomplicate it a little bit. So it depends obviously on what category of fulfillment you want to be in, right? B2B, D2C, retail, like there's different avenues to it. But standard, you want a WMS that's going to take care of all of your inventory management. You want it to have at least at the bare minimum, you want it to have transparency on all pricing. So clients could see what the shipment cost was, pick and pack costs, where the products are located, all of those things. Ideally, you would want something that tracks the exact second something is received and all that good stuff, because then clients have transparency and you could track it throughout. So that would be a huge thing for WMS that I would say that's a big non-negotiable because people don't want to pay invoices that they don't know the breakdown of, right? So you want to have those things. But I would, on the other side of that, I would also say to be cautious of not getting a WMS that's so complicated that you need somebody full time to be playing with the interior, the back end of it to get everything rolling. You want it to be simple enough for clients, but also robust enough that you could do billing and all those transparent things.
Well, I think there's two things. Sometimes we have systems that we have a lot of features we don't need and don't use. Sometimes we have things we could actually use and we aren't even aware. So I think when it comes to technology, we should also be checking in regularly and be like, are there features I should actually be using that I'm not using? Because I think we all fall into that trap too.
Of course, it goes back to the version one type of thing, right? Like you don't want to sign with the WMS from day one that takes like 10 weeks to integrate with your systems. Like you don't want that, right? You want to start with something smaller, start with something that's lower risk essentially, right? Less cost, things like that, beginner level. And then you can scale it up from there. Switching WMSs it's obviously it takes some work, but it's better to start smaller and then grow to what you need because you'll learn in that process what things matter to you as a 3PL.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic advice. Okay, so let's talk about carriers and carrier flexibility. That's something that overwhelms 3PLs sometimes. How do you manage, I guess, carrier flexibility? How is it different? What are you seeing differently in the carrier landscape now to even 5-10 years ago? What is your advice around carriers?
Of course, there's a ton of regional carriers popping up, and at least in the last few years, I would say that it's very important to be flexible with them because some of them have very competitive pricing for certain ranges and certain pricing. I mean, in certain weight classes. So I would say that's a very big concept. Definitely having your floaters out there is big, right? Like have the ability and have the conversations with these carriers to see what it looks like. Always negotiate with your carriers as much as you can, right? Obviously, sometimes that requires bringing some volume, but to your advantage, you could try to scale with them. Mention that we're starting off a little small, but we have we have these few things in line that are going to help us scale, right? So those types of things I think are really big, but being flexible is huge because clients want specific services. Some of them want pictures on delivery. Some of them want certain flexibilities when it comes to duties or international shipping. So you want to have your net cast wide enough where you have those different service levels for each client's requirements.
Yeah, I think it's so true. We see because we live in the carrier world here at Easy Post, and we're carrier agnostic. We work with like all the carriers basically. But there are some really huge financial opportunities that people are often missing out on because they don't realize, like, oh, if I just change service level, or if I changed, this lane, or I change, that there are a lot of opportunities out there. And I think people sometimes get scared of some of the regional carriers. Um, I don't think you need to be. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there.
Of course, yeah. I would say definitely get feedback on the carriers. Most likely, if they're pitching you, they pitch somebody else, and there's some other 3PLs that are working with them. So put your feelers out at any networking event in any chat that you're in, and anybody and see how their experience is. Is likely going to be similar for you, depending on what area you're in. So I would say that's a huge thing. There's a vast amount of knowledge out there. You could definitely get it.
There is. It goes back to our point from earlier. Let people are happy to help more often than we think. So even though they're your competitor, even though, reach out. We're still community. Okay, what are you seeing from the consumer expectation, kind of from brand expectations? Are you seeing things that brands need or they're focused on that are different, or what can we expect from the brands these days?
Of course, yeah. I think more than before they want to see transparency. So as we get into this new world of AI and being able to make invoices in like a blink of an eye, right? Like you want to be able to have accurate breakdowns of everything. People want to see what they're paying for. And I think that's absolutely fair. I would do the same thing if I was a brand. So that's definitely what they're looking for, right? Like if we put ourselves in the perspective of the brand, that the communication being top tier is a very big deal, right? There's plenty of 3PLs, right? It gets commoditized quite a bit, but the level of service you get from these different 3PLs is vast. It's the difference between you being able to sleep good at night or not, right? As the brand owner or the operations person for the brand. So I'd say that's a big deal. Pick your partner, and not the company itself, but pick the people that you're going to work with.
That's a good quotable one there. Pick the people you're working with, not necessarily the company. I love that. Um, so one of the things that I've was thinking about when it comes to the 3PLs is the fact that, when you're a brand, so if I'm shipping just for myself, or as you knew when you were shipping for yourself, if something changed, it changed for your whole company, right? When you're a 3PL, you're dealing with so many different companies where it's like this company might be wanting to add a new carrier all of a sudden. This company over here might be wanting to do something cool with their unboxing. While this, somebody over here is dealing with wanting to change their speed. Or how do you manage, I guess, being pulled in a lot of different directions and knowing where to focus?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is the team, right? The people you have surrounding yourself is the most important thing. So you want to set up people that are accountable for each step of the process. So clients in the onboarding process, they'll get the first impression of your company, right? You want to have that be a very good experience for them. So even when it comes to getting pulled in different directions, you want to have somebody that's going to manage those shipping carriers for that client and be able to map that for them right away. You want to have somebody on the claim side that's going to be able to help, right? So everybody starts somewhere. I was that person for every single position at some point, and then you're able to then scale out. And
Okay, wait. I want to back up. I want to hear that again. So you were that person for everybody, like within Awesome Solutions, or you mean back when you were, are you recommending people try out all these different positions, like as a leader?
no, so you're not going to be the best at everything, right? Customer service, you're not going to be the best at everything. But when we started, we just didn't have the funding to be able to hire people. I'm sure a lot of people start that way. We never raised money, so we're fully bootstrapped. We start from a certain place, And I was the person that handled the sales, the customer service, the shipping carrier negotiations, everything on the tech side, right? So you start in that position, and I was essentially the warehouse manager, right? Like that's how it begins. And then you start to get people that can have more skills than you, right? So like my warehouse manager is much better at that than I am. My claims department is better at that than I would be. So you get people that are better, and then you empower them. Like you are able to invest in them, provide them better knowledge, take care of them as people, and then you're able to scale to being able to do things that clients want at the speed of whatever speed they need.
That's a cool thing with being a founder is that really boots on the ground experience. How do you pull back? I've worked with a lot of different CEOs over all the years. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them have trouble letting go of thinking that they know the warehouse better or they know because they have run those rules. How do you get yourself to step back and trust your people?
It's hard. It takes some time to process all that, but knowing that if you're the CEO of a company and your hands are in everything, that you're gonna have to make peace with the fact that you'll be at a certain volume. That's okay. But for people that want to scale or want to grow, you can't be involved in every process, right? Like you won't know every box that goes out. You won't know all of that, but you can be very involved still in the communication and all the higher level things. So I think that's a huge game changer for us. One of the biggest things is our goal is not to take 100 clients right now, right? Like that's not our plan. We're not an enterprise level 3PL where we just take numbers, right? Our goal is to take a brand on, nurture them through the process, really onboard them. So we have quotas set where we'll limit the amount of people that we take on after we hit a certain amount, right? Like that's our process. So we know that we can provide a very high level of service for that customer.
So discipline. It sounds like a lot of self-discipline in terms of sticking with what your goals are, but also sticking with at some point I have to trust my people if I want to scale. And so that's part of my discipline is stepping back and letting them run and then seeing what happened. It's not like you can't pivot later. Okay, this has been so good. We're just about out of time, but I have a couple of questions I want to make sure we get to. One thing I would just love to hear, as you are that boots on the ground person there, what do you see happening? Like in the 3PL world in the next 5 years or so, with technology, with AI, with e-commerce booming, with consumer expectations shifting. Do you have a crystal ball? Like what kind of things do you think we should be looking for, Krishna?
That's a great question. I'm gonna look back at this and see if what I say comes
That's right. I'm
true.
going to send it to you in 5 years.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of automation going on, like everybody could see. But I think a lot of the 3PLs that are going to do really well are going to be the ones that have that boots on the ground type of experience with their customers, right? So going back to the AI agent type of thing, we want to have people talking to people. So clients are going to have they're going to see a big price reduction, obviously, when they invest in the initial robotics and the automation infrastructure. But I think that'll lead to its own set of issues.
Yeah.
And the brands that want more human specific approaches are going to come to 3PLs that are on the smaller side and ones that are less enterprise level. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a divide there.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I'm going to send it to you in 5 years, but I do think we've got some growing pains because there are huge opportunities, but sometimes we're over investing a little bit towards the automation side where the human element may become one of those big differentiators in the future. So this has been so great, Krishna. If somebody wants to learn about running a 3PL, they want to reach out and give advice, just like you said when you were cold emailing people from your high school classes. I hope none of your high school teachers are watching this right now. If they want to, maybe they are, doing fulfillment. I mean, or doing, maybe they're a seller. How can they get in contact with you? What's the best way, I guess, first to learn about Awesome Solutions itself, if they're interested in using your 3PL, but second, just contacting you. Are you LinkedIn, email? What's the best ways?
Yeah, LinkedIn's definitely the best way. They could search me up. If you could put my link in the bio so they could search me up there. It's
We'll
just
do it.
Krushna Patel on LinkedIn. I post whenever my team yells at me to post. So they'll see that. They'll see that happening
Love
there.
it.
If they need any information on fulfillment, they can go to awesomesolutionsnj.com. And over there's a contact form. So any brands that want to reach out could just go directly on there, and then we'll take care of that from there.
Fantastic. And one other question with Awesome Solutions, is there an ideal audience? Like, is there somebody, if they were listening right now, that you would say you are a perfect fit for us.
Yes, when it comes to D2C brands, we're looking for D2C brands that are high volume. So minimum of 2,000 orders going out a month. And the way we do things is for those brands that have a surge of orders, for example, like TikTok shops. So we're partnered with TikTok shops, we're partnered with Amazon. We're here to provide to the brands that are looking for high touch fulfillment with a lot of ease on their end. So we could handle that entire process for them and
Throughout the US,
throughout the whole world, actually.
the whole world. Okay, great.
Yep. Yep.
Fantastic. So if that is you, completely recommend that you reach out to Krushna. He is fantastic. Really gives you that personal touch. But this has been so great. I've learned so much from you today. I feel a little bit motivated to maybe like look for where I'm seeing some gaps, be a little bit better tomorrow than I am today. So thank you again, Krushna, for being here.
Of course, pleasure's mine.
We'll see you next time.